Hello, listeners. Today we are speaking with Harshith Varma, one of the best LinkedIn content strategists and copywriters that I know. He's worked with some big names, which we'll get into, and we also worked together at my previous agency, Conversion House, where I saw firsthand how his process generates warm leads. So, without further ado, let's dive straight in. So, welcome, Harshith. Great to have you here. For those that don't know you, who are you and what agency do you run?
Thanks for having me on, Joe. Long story short, I'm a math graduate turned marketer, and I run a LinkedIn personal branding agency for agency owners, where we post basically ghostwrite content for them, work on their offer, their positioning, the content strategy, run your thought leader ads, and even do some warm outbound. It's basically everything that you need to start driving leads through LinkedIn.
Awesome. And can you tell us a little bit about your offer and H to H, please?
Oh, for sure. So the offer is pretty straightforward. So if your agency is doing over like $1 million in ARR, we'll guarantee you at least $30,000 in new revenue in 90 days, or you don't pay. And the reason we have a minimum ARR as a criteria is because agencies at this stage usually have good social proof, like case studies, testimonials, etc. Right? Because if you didn't have them in the first place, you wouldn't have gotten to like a seven-figure agency, right? So like that's one of the reasons we have that as a prerequisite, and it's also because, to be very honest, social proof content is the most effective form of content in terms of driving leads. So that's one of the reasons we have that as a criteria. And secondly, companies at this stage usually have solid operations and fulfillment in place. And I've actually seen a lot of cases, where agencies actually put lead gen on hold because they don't have the capacity to take new clients. And that's the last thing you would want, right? Because if you're able to drive leads to LinkedIn and they are saying that, oh, we have to, like wait until we hire one or two more people just so that we can like maintain quality and fulfill them, that's not very ideal for you as well. So yeah, so ideally you want to work with like relatively established agencies.
Yeah, I got it. And what does your 90-day process look like?
So we basically start with the offer and positioning only if it needs work, because if it's already solid, there's not much you need to do on that front. And I think this is so foundational, because if you look at your own case, Joe, for example, when you posted about your new offer where you're gonna like fly to the US and like shoot content for free, and they're gonna, all you ask for in return is for some referrals and warm intros, right? I think that's an absolute no-brainer offer, and I think you've gotten more responses in 2 days than you got in the previous 2 months. So I think that kind of speaks for itself, right? And even with Best Push, for example, I can't tell you exactly how much revenue I've generated after announcing the new offer, but I can tell you for a fact that it has been the biggest growth period. And like even like when we shared the offer in the newsletter for the first time, there were so many sales calls booked, and I think that's a good problem to have, right? I mean, that's something any agency owner would want. And of course, like I would also attribute it to them having like a very strong list. They already had 45 to 50,000 subscribers in place. So uh, gotta give credit where it's due. But it all starts with the offer. So if there's just one takeaway from this episode, let it be to make your offer irresistible and forget about all the LinkedIn strategies and everything else, and just focus on the offer. Just make it as frictionless as possible, as value packed, and as risk free as possible, to kind of sum it up. And then we work on the positioning part, where we basically identify your ICP and your core service, because I see a lot of these full service agencies that kind of try to be everything for everyone, and it doesn't really work. It dilutes some messaging, because you can't really focus on one core problem or one core ICP, and that's not something you want, right? Then we establish the content pillars. The first one is authority content, which basically means you show that you demonstrate your understanding of your industry as well as your service, right? For example, with you, in your case, for example, you want to work with B2B SaaS companies, right? So you kind of want to like prove that you understand SaaS as a whole, because it's not sufficient for you to be good at video production. That alone is not gonna like close any deals for you, because only when you understand your client's industry, you can kind of position your offer as a solution and how it kind of fits into the grander scheme of things, right? So, and of course, like you have to be great at what you do. So, like the video production thing itself. I mean, like how you go about it, what's the storytelling approach, what are your pillars, like what does your process look like, all that stuff. So all of that comes under authority content. And then there is social proof. So when I say social proof, people usually think about all these like fully polished case studies and stuff, but it always doesn't have to be that way, because there are only so many case studies that any agency has. So you kind of have to look for these micro pieces of social proof. Something I would say, it could be something as simple as a Slack DM that your client must have sent you, or it could be an email, it could be a screenshot of the dashboard, right? It could be because of improvement in some metrics, right? So even something as simple as that would work, and it kind of demonstrates that you know what you're talking about. And yeah, I think, like, to be honest, like, there is nothing more effective than social proof. So it's absolutely fundamental. And even within social proof, I would say there is a second form which not a lot of people focus on, which is I would call it FOMO social proof, in the sense that you could take examples of companies that have scaled really well. They don't have to be your clients, but they have scaled well because of the service you're offering. So let me just give an example here, right? In my case, I could say, oh, there is this agency who has driven $2 million in pipeline in the last 2 years, right? It's through LinkedIn, right? They don't have to be my client, but just exposing you to that sort of content, it makes you prioritize the problem, right? It makes you understand that, oh, like, this could be a huge source of leads. It could, like, literally change the trajectory of your agency, right? So even if it's not your own client, just showing that, oh, what we do works and what we do matters, that kind of forces your prospect to kind of enter that consideration set. So yeah, that's how I would see it. And the last one is just like building in public. This is pretty straightforward, and this, I would say, is the easiest form of content to get started with. It could be something as simple as your origin story, like how did you start the agency, like why did you start it, and for in a lot of cases, it's just like a freelancer transitioning to an agency, right? That could work. That always works, right? It could be what are your lessons you learned along the way. It could be something as simple as like the conversations you're having with prospects on sales calls. It could be conversations you're having with other industry folks, right? And this serves multiple purposes, right? Because when you have like a lot of conversations with these prospects, you get an understanding of what are the objections they have, and this itself like serves as a huge source of content ideas for you. So yeah, all that stuff. It could be like, I mean, I'm assuming most agencies are remote at this moment. So like, how do you establish like the work culture in such case, or something as simple? It could be something as simple as an employee shout out, right? So all that sort of stuff would fall under building in public. So yeah, I think it took a little longer, but like those are the three core content pillars. And then we do warm outbound after like 2 to 3 weeks. And so what I mean by that is, if you have LinkedIn Premium, you can have a look at people who are like viewing your profile, right? So look out for opportunities, look out for people who are checking out your profile or engaging with your content. And if they are your ICP, and two, if you think that your offer is actually like relevant to them, it just makes sense to reach out to them, right? So we just wait for like 2 to 3 weeks before we do that, because we just want to make sure that we have some content in place before we do that. So that is the warm outbound part. And finally, we run thought leader ads. So which basically means you kind of promote your best performing content. It always doesn't have to be your best performing content, because you have to think about like what is most likely to generate leads. And in most cases, it's going to be social proof content, right? And that always doesn't generate a lot of engagement, but it's still worth promoting as a thought leader ad. So yeah, so the whole system is, you start with the offer and positioning, like that's the foundation, and then you go on to the content pillars, then you have the warm outbound, then you have the thought leader ads part. It's just like everything kind of complements each other, and it's like one all bound system. So yeah.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I think I've got quite a few bits to say on that. The first thing is, I want to make it clear that, when we work together, there's a lot of ghostwriters there, and there's a lot of people who can write really good copy. But I think the main benefit that we got from you is actually from like the offer side, and then obviously testing that through posts and whether it got engagement, and then speaking to people, and then, do we double down on this or do we kind of shift? And then obviously all the positioning work that you did with us, with all of the frameworks, and we had proper workshops to go through. and then there's obviously the side of you which is focusing on great hooks, great body copy. So there's two parts to you, which is like the offer, the positioning, and and then there's the post, and then there's the other side, which is, when we were obviously working on the more design side, you were emphasizing social proof, and so our website was evolving, our LinkedIn was evolving. Um, we started to understand like the importance of social proof. I remember when I first reached out to you, and the main thing that kind of got you onto my radar, you onto my radar, was when I saw Wes say this guy's going places. I just think I looked at your profile, saw that testimonial, and I was like, we need to follow this guy. Who is this guy? And then from there, I spoke to you, found out you're an expert. So it was like kind of the social awareness, the social proof from Wes, and then your expertise, and that was like the nail in the coffin that we got to work with this guy.
Yeah.
So,
And yeah,
but I just,
that is the
yeah,
that is the
sorry.
reason I emphasize so much on social proof, because even if you look at your own case, it all started because of the testimonial from West, right? And it was all downstream from that. So if there's just like one form of content you want to post, just make sure that it is social proof. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, just making it clear that chief service is much more than copywriting. It's offer positioning strategy. What makes your agency different, Harshith?
So I would say we have a very strong emphasis on revenue. Our offer is like literally like centered around that, because if you guys don't make money, we don't make money. So we are kind of forced to deliver, right? And of course, like the offer isn't applicable to everyone, but even in that case, we kind of make sure that we can help you get to a point where you kind of see like LinkedIn as a part of your go-to-market motion and see it as a non-negotiable. And I would say we focus a lot on the first principles of marketing, sales psychology, and lead gen, because I think if you look at it, we have never used any templated content whatsoever, right? We kind of look at what is the end goal of this post and then kind of reverse engineer from there so that you kind of smoothly transition to that, right? So we start with the goal of this post, like what is this post supposed to accomplish, and then kind of reverse engineer from that. And it's also that we have a very holistic approach, I would say, versus me just focusing only on content or just ads or just outreach and that stuff like that. Maybe there are like a few agencies that do that, but I don't see a lot of them, at least in this space, that are targeting agency owners. So, like as we just discussed, it's about like your offer, your positioning, your content, then the other stuff that kind of reinforce each other, right? So it's like one cohesive system which kind of, and you need all of them, to be honest, if you want to like make the most out of LinkedIn, right? So yeah, so I would say like the holistic approach is a big differentiator. And it only takes like approximately 1 hour of your time every week. So it's not a huge time commitment issue either. But that being said, it doesn't mean that, oh, you just have to spend 1 hour a week on LinkedIn, but the more you spend, the better it's going to be for you. Sure, like you, I'm sure I understand what other things you have to deal with, but the more time you spend, the better. So simple as that.
Nice, man. And yeah, one of the things that I was really impressed with when you worked for us is you understood the design when we were obviously in the design space, which we still are, but that's not the main focus. You understood like the business inside and out. It wasn't surface level content, it was quite deep. And then obviously, like you say, you're doing so the content, the strategy, but you're also doing the warm outbound and thought leader ads. And warm outbound has 3 to 5x response rates compared to say cold approaches. So it's really powerful. So if you've got a bigger LinkedIn account, like someone like Wes, if you can capitalize on great content and then obviously get the comments, get the profile visits, you've got the lead list, and then reach out. You've got a lot of people you can reach out to, and it's a better use of time. So it is a much more holistic strategy that you're doing. And yeah, yeah, and I saw that firsthand how good it was. So on to the next question then. Who have you worked with, Harshith?
So most of my initial experience comes from working at two of the biggest ghostwriting agencies. The first one is Demandly, which was a LinkedIn ghostwriting agency, and the other one was a Twitter ghostwriting agency. But I thought like Twitter isn't like really the platform for B2B, so I came back to LinkedIn. It's been like a couple of years since then, and I worked with Matt Stellenberg, who runs an SEO agency, and we've had him add over $1 million in ARR in just 12 months. And this was entirely inbound. There was absolutely no cold outreach done. But this was like a couple of years ago, right? So back when LinkedIn was relatively easier, sure, it was still saturated, but it was kind of easier, and we were kind of also lucky to get away with just content. So like that was there, and currently working with Westpush, whom we have helped add over 10,000 followers in less than, I think, in around a year or so. And we've helped them add a few $100,000. I can't specify the exact amount because attribution gets difficult when you're working on multiple channels at the same time. So I don't want to take unfair credit here. But that being said, I can tell you for a fact that a large part of that growth came after refining our offer. So I would say that. And we also worked with you briefly, like with Conversion House. So that's there. And we've gotten some really big companies as inbound leads during this process. Like very recently, we had a Y Combinator-backed company that raised, I think, around $20 million. And we closed them. So that was an inbound lead. And when I was working with Master in Berlin, the earlier client, we literally had the biggest client in their industry. Like think about like the big fish. I think they were worth around $100 million. They came inbound and we closed them. So, and I have lots of similar examples. You can check them out on my website. You can check them out on my LinkedIn, all that sort of stuff, right? But yeah, so those are that's like kind of my past experience.
Yeah, a lot of big names there, and social proof doesn't lie. So yeah, you can check out H2H website. I'll put a link in the description. So I think this is the question I'm most excited to ask you because you see a lot of people at LinkedIn influencers, and it's a lot of surface level LinkedIn knowledge. And I remember I obviously asked you this question, and I just saw some really detailed things. I'm excited to ask this one, but yeah. So what are your top LinkedIn tips?
So the first one would be, I would say, just start. This might not be what you're looking for, but I see a lot of people kind of overcomplicating things. They wait until like a certain occasion and they were like, oh, that's when I'm going to start LinkedIn, but just start. I'm not saying don't have a strategy, do have a strategy, and you can use everything that you've heard, listened to so far as a foundation, but don't overcomplicate things. Set 2 to 3 simple content pillars. It could just be social proof and building in public. Simple as that, right? And just start, just talk about them, right? And it's definitely better than waiting, for that perfect day when you think, oh, like once I have this in place, that's when I'm going to start. And the reason I say this is because the longer you wait, the harder it is going to get to stand out. So, right. So you just want to capitalize on the wave while it's there. So just start. And the second one, I would say something I'm really observing right now is starting out with video content. And I think it's a huge opportunity right now, to be very honest. Content like skits or like podcasts, like in like very informal settings or like very unconventional stuff in public. Like Sam Dunning does on like in and around London, where he asks people about Google, SEO, and all that sort of stuff. It's funny and it does help him stand out, right? And there is Tycho who's killing it. There is Dave Gerhardt who does it well, who's the OG of founder branding. There is Louis Kim, there is Louis Grenier, all great examples, right? So I think this is legit a very huge opportunity. And Joe, I think like this is where your new offer can be insanely valuable because you guys can help people create this sort of high production content that gives them an edge, right? So look at the trailers for Akash Gupta's podcast, for example. It's just so good, right? And the reason I say this is because every day the bar is only going to get higher and higher, and you have to look for those opportunities that are going to help you stand out. And if that's going to be like video content, high production video content, so be it. You have to find a way to stand out, right? So yeah, I think that's my second LinkedIn tip. Third one is just capitalize on intent, right? I mean, hope is not a strategy. It's not a reliable strategy. It may have worked a few years back. It may work now, but it's not something I would recommend anymore. Although it has worked for my clients in the past, because see, like if you get inbound leads, great. But if there's an ICP who checks your profile, who engages with your content, and you think that your offer is relevant to them, reach out to them. I mean, but just make sure that when you reach out, it's like very relevant and like kind of personalized. Just don't spam them, right? And as long as you do that, I think you'll be fine. You won't get called out. So nothing to worry about on that front. And similarly, if you have the budget, I would say amplify your winners with thought leader ads and also your social proof content with thought leader ads. Whatever you think has the best chance of driving leads, Fourth one, I would say is engage meaningfully. And this is something you are really good at, Joe, because you give. And I don't even know if you ask because you just keep giving, right? And people, you have to understand that LinkedIn is a social network at the end of the day. It's a two-way street. If you're not going to give, people are not going to reciprocate back to you, right? So you can't get away with simply posting content on LinkedIn, right? Unless you are a billionaire who doesn't expect anything in return from the platform, right? But that is not the case with most of you. So do engage with people, do engage in a meaningful way. People can spot it easily if it's like very shallow or if you have ulterior motives, right? So just be a nice guy and just be a human. I think that kind of brings me to the last and final tip. Be a human, right? Because and yeah, I think I can really rant about this, but stop using AI comments for God's sake. There is no one on this planet Earth would appreciate them, not a single soul. So stop treating it as a checklist item. You're only causing yourself more damage than you think you're. You're hurting your brand, you're hurting your reputation, and it's not going to help anyone, right? And even with content, sure, like content, Chat GPT and Claude are like great places to start, but just make sure that that's not the end all. Make sure that you have a good editor in place just to who kind of make it sound more human, right? Who can kind of follow a storytelling structure and keep it tight and keep your readers intrigued throughout the length of the post. So yeah, that's those I would say would be my top 5 tips.
Amazing, thanks, man. And I just can't recommend you enough to people from more of a top of funnel, getting visibility, engagement, but also then converting that engagement into warm leads, which you can then outreach to and get clients. And I saw this and I felt this when we worked together. So I really want to say to people that they need to reach out to you. And so that leads on to the next question. Then, where can people follow you and reach you?
LinkedIn, that's the best place because I'm a LinkedIn guy. So there's no better place. If you have any questions and like even if you don't want to even if you're not considering working with us, but if you still have any questions or anything, I would be more than happy to answer your questions. So feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Amazing. I'll put a link in the description to reach out. And I just want to close off today by saying thank you for coming on. And I really mean this, but I haven't really seen anyone that's got the LinkedIn content strategy and copywriting skills that you've got. Plus all the other benefits that come around that you give to people with the website, social proof, all that stuff, positioning. And yeah, just genuinely really excited to see what's next for you, mate. And there's big things coming. So.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that. And as I just mentioned, I think what you guys are offering, I think it has a lot of scope because I see that as like the single biggest differentiator at the moment on LinkedIn. It's just like top-notch video content, right? So I think if you guys are at least on the verge of considering it, reach out to Joe because he has an absolute no-brainer offer right now. So just make use of it while it is still there. So yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah.
Appreciate that, my friend. Thank you. Take care.